right, you legends. It's about 11 or 12 Celsius. Cooler than we had earlier this week. We're like at 28, almost 30 C. And we got a front overnight. It's still blowing in, so you can probably hear it. But we're equipped and we're headed north. Everybody's flaking out from all the rides, so we're just gonna take off and we're gonna get some clips. Yeah, well, supposedly there was a little bit of rain early this morning, but if rain is an issue, then you get what you need to deal with it instead of whining about it.
On this ride, Paul and I left Northampton. We took Kuykendahl Boulevard. We filmed that into the Woodlands. We passed Sterling Ridge. We went back on film and WCC caught up with us. We filmed on Fish Creek until we let them go. Then we continued into Honea. We decided that we were going to go east. So we took 105 into Highland Hollow. We did 2 loops on a 12% climb in there. Went out on Highway 830. By the time we got on 1097, we filmed crossing the lake. It was very, very breezy. We turned off the film when we got into Montgomery. We went ahead and took Spring Branch Road back on 149, Keenan cut off through the Hills Parkway, the Grand Lake Estates. When we got to Honea-Egypt Road, we filmed all the way back into the Woodlands. It was a cold day, breezy, overcast. I think you would like the clips that we got for you.
So this is Creekside Green here. Go left. So we're gonna film our warm-up for you guys. And we'll try to get some interesting clips today.
We're still in our neighborhood area. We're on Creekside Green. This is a road that is frequented by cyclists. We've decided to use the Kuykendahl Boulevard because there's a lot of construction on Goslin. It says 13 Celsius. It feels like 8 or 9 Celsius. It's very windy. The wind is blowing from the northwest and it's gusting. I'll estimate they listed it around probably 12 kilometers per hour early in the morning, but it was probably gusting more than that. I would say about probably 20 kilometers an hour by the time we were riding with the WCC guys that will catch up to us. So we stayed with them for almost 11 minutes. Mo invited us to stay as long as we could. And Paul started feeling a little off his form on Fish Creek, so we backed off to finish our ride. So we're going to keep visiting them more frequently. We're going to make some changes to the way we're riding so we can adapt to what they do. So it should be interesting in the coming months, weeks and months. In these videos, you'll follow that. We'll kind of put some things together. It's always nice to see those guys.
But we're changing the lead. Makes it more interesting.
There was no hiding today from the wind. There was not much of a draft. You had to get really low. You will see how low Mo gets when he gets behind Paul later. And it was interesting because I was right behind him. He had helped me get back into the group after I missed my clip. Those guys, when the light changes, they take off. So I had to work a little hard, and then he got in front of me, which gave a bit of a reprieve.
The temperature has dropped by 15 Celsius in a short period of time. And that's about, let's see, 25 Fahrenheit. So it's a significant change.
Yeah, so it's almost 25 to 30 degrees cooler than it was the day before. We're in the 80s, and today, Fahrenheit-wise, it's like 50 maybe, but it feels colder than that. So we'll have you guys follow our adaptation to the WCC pace over time. That's our long-term goal, to ride with them longer and longer before we break off and do our thing like we do. So we'll alternate our visits. between Team RR and WCC. There's also another group called the Sun and Ski that leaves out of the Woodlands. We may visit them in the future.
All right.
Yeah, whenever cars are turning like that, we watch them because some of them cut the corners. But that mail carrier was alert. So you got to watch for that and slow down if they cut the corners. So you will see that the WCC guys ignore the conditions. Really, they just go hard. They were doing about 35K
down in the back.
into the wind. I told Paul to pull his vest down, but what ended up happening is he has his pockets loaded so much that they just gotta ride up because that jersey is further down. And so he said he would tell me at the corner, yeah, it just kind of moves up anyway. So I told him, okay. We're packing a lot of stuff because it's a long day.
Okay.
That's what he said. We'll ride up on his own. He's got a lot of stuff in his pockets. Once he lightens the load, should sit better. So the what I was saying earlier is the WCC guys, they just do effort. They don't worry about, oh, it's windy, it's not windy. They just go whatever range they want to be in, and that's the way you should ride. I was a bit concerned when Paul came and he didn't cover his knees, but he said he was okay, throughout. I err on the side of covering my knees, so I put on those knee warmers. Because it may say 13C, it feels cooler than that. And the day is supposed to continue to get colder. This is the warmest it's going to be. We're going into the teeth of the wind. So even though I got that vest zipped up, you can see just the little ripples in it. That's why your kit needs to fit you. If that vest didn't fit me, it'd be flapping all over the place because it's gusting and blowing. There were portions of the ride where it felt like I wanted to take out my front wheel from the side. So you have to hang on to your bars. So Paul comes and takes the lead here. This gives me a bit of a break, and what I do is I just kind of let my cadence go down a little bit by shifting up, maintaining the pace, but I'm sitting in his slipstream. Another thing, when you're following people, if they're smaller than you, you're going to have to get closer, you're going to have to get low. But especially in the wind, even if they're your size, you got to get low to take advantage of that. Because this day, it was swirling around. These are the storms that brought record-setting tornadic activity across the central U.S. In places like Kentucky, they lost so far up to 64 people have perished from tornadoes tearing up their towns. It wiped out a bunch of areas. So this was record-setting here, this front that dropped in from the northeast. I keep up with the weather consistently because I want to know what's coming, what it's going to be like, all of that. That's important. Then you make a decision whether you're going to be out there or not. So according to the app on the phone, it feels like 8 Celsius. That's what they were forecasting. That's helping now. They recently updated our software on the phone to where now you get feels like, you get wind conditions, you get wind speed. It's been a nice change. The layout has been improved. I think it's version 15 point something in the iOS. And they have added a bunch of useful metrics So knowing that it was going to feel like 8 Celsius and it was supposed to continue to get colder throughout the day, that's why I put on the knee warmers. And we've got our shoe covers on as well. Listen to the wind. So when it's windy, you want to take short poles so you get a break with your riding mate. Makes a big difference in helping you guys maintain a decent pace. Because right now we're just warming up. Listen to that. And it is really gusting. And if you look at Paul's gilet, because it fits him well, it's not flapping that much because the kind of winds we're experiencing, it got so windy that when we're crossing Lake Conroe, you may see me turn my head away from the wind. The wind was literally burning my nostrils with the force it was coming with over the lake. And it's like 3 hours from now. It just got colder throughout the day. We have our mud guards on because it rained this morning. Just light rain. It didn't last long, but we just wanted to have that on there just in case either we encountered some wet areas or if it rained again. I don't want to be wet when it's cold. I left the music off here so you can appreciate the conditions. It stayed overcast the entire day and windy. And this is a day that discourages a lot of other road users from coming out. You see, I flicked my elbow for Paul to come through. So after the ride, I told Paul we're going to have to modify our workouts and start ramping things up a little more so he can acclimate and I can acclimate to longer durations in the higher zones that it requires to ride at a quicker pace. So we're going to start doing that. We start the Festive 500 in about 2 weeks, Christmas Eve, and we will be working on that as well. So should be a lot of fun. The wind is coming from the left and it's pretty much swirling around. It's mostly from the north. We're headed east, so it's on our left. So I stay close to the middle of the road so that Paul can have a little bit of shelter on the right. He's not really as close as I would like. When I'm following him, I'm up there. Now he's moving up. So when it's windy like this, you got to be close. You got to get low. You got to get in there. Otherwise, you're not maximizing the shelter. We're warming up in zone 2. So when we're riding with the WCC guys, I was mostly in sweet spot to like bottom of zone 4. Sections of it I was in like middle of zone 4. So it was a different effort level. So as soon as he goes by, I drift over to the right a little bit. because that's where it is. That's where most of the draft is, right on the right. I just sit on the right. That gives me a bit of a breather so that when I come back up to the front, I'm somewhat fresh to resume. See how I got a little quieter there for the camera. Once you get in the pocket, it gets quiet. In about a kilometer, we're going to get to Flint Ridge Drive. We're going to go north directly into the wind. At this point, I thought he was pulling off, but he didn't, so I just stayed there. I just stayed on the right. I put the camera down there just to show. I'm about a foot away from him. Even with the wide angle, you can see it. I'm right there. This is where the shelter is. See, it's quiet. Then we got a little bit of protection from the trees on the left, from the wind. All of these little things make a difference. So if you're in an area where you're competing or you're doing a time trial, this is the section where you can make up some time with less effort because you got some shelter here. We're going up a slight grade, nothing significant, about 1%. There's the red light in the distance, about 500 meters. I'll go ahead and move over to the left lane. There's nothing coming because we're turning. This is Flint Ridge Drive and Kuykendahl Boulevard in the Woodlands, Texas. We take the left turn here.
WCC boys came by while Paul and I was warming up. We're gonna sit in for a bit.
So this is further up the road, a few kilometers further up. We're on Branch Crossing Drive. After we turned on Flint Ridge, we went through Sterling Ridge and we got the Branch Crossing Drive. These guys started the YMCA, which is a little south of this road, and so they came up on us. There's a rider going the opposite way, and that's the leader of the Team RR guys. He's riding by himself today anyway, because he had said he was out from their ride. It didn't seem like anybody was riding because nobody really took over to say, yeah, there is a ride. The way they organize their ride, they don't have a standing time like these guys. These guys have a standing time. There is a ride every Saturday and every Sunday from specified locations for the whole year. And whoever shows up, that's the ride. So it's not upon anyone's shoulders to anchor the ride per se or to host the ride. I like their format. So there's no pressure on anybody to keep the ride live. Whoever shows up for the ride, you make up your own route and you all decide how fast you want to go. I think it's a better format than have one person announcing a ride every week. So this is a racing club within the Woodlands. That's Doug Shot on the left in the orange jersey. He's just riding with them. I don't think he's a member of the club. They'll let you come and ride. I don't care. You will hear Mo invite us to join them for as long as we can. These guys are elite racers. That's Sana in the purple there. She's from Finland. She's one of the hammerheads in this group. I believe she took second in one of our major Texas time trials. So Mo was saying that I want to meet who took first, but the difference was 6 seconds between them. That's Mauricio Topotopini on the left. Those of you who don't know, Mo used to race with the big boys. The Lion King, the guy that used to race with the Cyclist team. Mario Cipollini, Mo raced with Francesco Casagrande, Michele Bartoli. All those boards. When you come to a ride and you see a rider like Mo, you can just tell the class because he just makes everything look easy. You know, we're in this wind and he'd be spinning around like there's no wind. You see him dancing around. He's back there talking to, I believe, Kenny. Kenny said he had to go back home and add to his outfit because it was colder than he figured when he got out. That's what they're talking about. You'll hear Mo greet me in a little bit and ask me about Team RR.
Maurizio!
I like to call him Maurizio.
They're just flaking. Yeah, he's just riding by himself. He said he was out. So
Yeah, Mark had posted. What he said is he saw the leader.
we don't know if they're riding.
You're welcome to stick with us as long as you can.
Okay.
We're doing that normal.
So what he said is you're welcome to stick with us as long as you can. We're going to do the normal Bethel loop. Bethel Road, we filmed it a few times. We had a racer dog there from, you know, a while ago that used to chase us. We haven't seen him recently. It's a nice, challenging, quiet road. I guess they like it so much they're going to do it twice. That's what they said. They were going to go 2 loops. Keeps them close to home relatively. They're not going way out, but they're going to cover a lot of ground because at this pace you can see they're doing 40K. It's windy. It is just swirling around. And I'm already at the bottom of sweet spot. I'm in tempo zone with them. Normally, Paul and I wouldn't be riding this fast. I mean, close, probably 30K. So they're doing 35K. They ride an average of about, I would say, 5 miles an hour faster than we do. So let's say we're normally riding around 20. These guys are doing 25. They're about in similar conditions. You know, so anywhere from 4 to 6 miles an hour faster than we do. That's my estimation in terms of speed. But the effort level, there are a couple of zones up from where we normally, when I'm sitting with the Team RR guys, I'm in zone 2. When I'm sitting,
the wind is getting stronger.
we turned that corner and that thing hit me. I said, I don't know if it's me, but the wind's getting stronger. And Kenny's up there. It is windy. This is Jesus. He's sliding back down the line. We say good morning. So now, so I've gone up like 2 or 3 beats. But what I was saying is when I ride with Team RR, I'm in zone 2 when I'm sitting in. When I ride with WCC, I'm in zone 4 when I'm sitting in. About the middle of zone 4. So if you're going to ride with groups like that, you've got to train to where you're spending more time in the zones that you're going to be in with them in order to do the whole ride fairly well. Let's say adapt to the efforts they're going to be doing. Because right now I'm in zone 4 and we have not really started riding with them that long. It's just been a few minutes. But this is where I normally stay, 166, 164 to like 168 beats per minute when I'm sitting in with these guys. That's my zone. That's where I stay for the most part. And then throughout the ride, it may vary. Sometimes it goes higher, it comes down. But you've got to identify that. So let's say if you're competing, then you train to be able to tolerate that zone longer.
Huh?
I said this came sooner than expected.
The wind is picking up harder.
Paul says this came sooner than expected. I think he was talking about WCC catching up to us. But they leave around 7:30. Let's see, what time is it? 7:45. That's about right, you know. That's about right. But I'm not. I think they had changed their time in the summer. We're gonna have to verify when they're leaving. That's Kenny there. That's Doug on the right.
Most says we're welcome to tag along as we can. I thought, hey, yeah, thanks for the invite.
So this is a very welcoming group. These guys always like excited to see other cyclists. I really like the way they are.
We're going north to through the forest. Apparel.
Yeah. Keep going.
Yeah.
You're the stronger.
Nice day, you know.
What's his name? Jesus says we're the strong ones because we're going further north.
Yeah, you guys are nuts.
Yeah, they said they're doing Bailey Grove first. I said, nah, you guys are nuts. We're not going with you. But we're gonna start. We need to start visiting them more and more so they can push us more and more before we head out on our other excursions.
Collecting crowns.
So I'm holding the camera so Paul can focus on riding right now, because I already had the camera in my pocket when they came by, and then it was Paul that suggested let's sit on their wheel. So I'm like, okay, cool, let me go ahead and film. I don't think Paul is even aware that I'm filming, because I took the camera when I started. If you guys noticed, I was off the back of this group. So I sat up, got the camera out of my pocket because I had to lift my gilet, got the camera out, started it, so Paul was already on their wheel. Then I rode up to them. So he's not even aware I'm filming, but I sit behind him. My goal was to stay behind him to make sure that whenever he got tired of staying with these guys, then I would back off, because I didn't want him sitting in these conditions by himself. It is very blustery, and we plan on being here for at least 5 or 6 hours. These guys are going a little shorter. That's why they're going to do 2 loops of Bailey Grove and then come back home, because it's windy and it's cold. I think I'm the only one who's got my legs covered. Everybody, it's not very, very bad, but you know, and then coming back home, it'll be a little warmer with the wind somewhat behind you. We never got a perfect tailwind on the way back. Certain stretches we could feel that, but there's always wind, and it's always shifting around as the day moves on. We're going through here as a train. And you can see Paul is working, because we're working. I'm at 163 sitting in because of the wind, because they're not really going that hard. It's the conditions. It feels like you're climbing the whole time. Right here, Paul leaves too much of a gap, so I go around him. You'll see me come around. You see the camera pass him. I'm coming around to get in front of him because he was not very, very alert there. And those guys, when they go around the corner, they don't let up. So he and Jesus is sitting on Paul's wheel. Paul is on my wheel. He's behind me. He's going to catch back up. And he and I chatted about it. I told him, yeah, you can't relax too much. When you're with these guys, you got to stay close. You got to treat it like you're racing. Because they go around the corner, they get on and get back up to speed. So we're turning here now. We're going to go on 2978, the open road. You can see I'm right there. You got to turn with them and be vigilant. This is Fish Creek Boulevard, the open road. The FM 2978. We're headed north to Conroe, Texas, directly into the teeth of this storm. Right here, I leave a gap for Sana. She looks back a couple of times to make sure that I am leaving the gap, and then she just slides in. You see, she didn't let anything open between Kenny's wheel and her front wheel. She just slid right in, and I'm right there. Now, she's kind of a small rider compared to me. So even if it was Kenny in front of me, there's not much of a draft here. This wind is not only coming straight, it is swirling around. This is the storm that produced all those tornadoes. So it was just a blustery day. So you're working hard. You don't get a perfect draft. But you can see, look at my heart rate, 162. Which is what I expect to be when I ride with these guys. And then when they go hard on the climbs and stuff, I might get to 168, maybe 171, thereabouts. Still Zoom 4. You know, so you got to know what kind of effort or what zone to prepare in for the people you're going to ride with. So what our plan is to gradually increase our duration with them. Today it was almost 11 minutes. Next time it might be 15 to 20, and we'll start bumping it up to like a half hour, 45 minutes, and so forth. Before long, we'll be able to stay with them longer. I mean, we'll still break off and go do our other parts of the ride that we normally do, but we want to ride longer and longer with these guys. That's our long-term goals. So it's good to give yourself goals and give yourself things to shoot for. in whatever you're doing. So the idea now is that riding with these guys right now, we're not trying to be heroes. We just sit in, we roll through. When we get to the front, feeling good, take a short pull off, roll back, so you keep the train moving. That's the way we're gonna ride with them. So Paul is on my wheel right now, and Jesus is on Paul's wheel. We're doing 25 miles an hour into a 12 to 15 mile an hour headwind. That's what it felt like to me anyway. You know, I mean, this is slightly downhill on this stretch right here. But for the most part, even when we're going up, and you will see that when we go down the hill and we get through the intersection where I missed my clip, these guys are riding 22 miles an hour thereabout into a stiff, blustery headwind. That means when the conditions are milder, they're easily doing 26 plus on, you know, in similar terrain as far as speed, but the effort is what they, you know, what matters as far as replicating what they're doing. So right now I'm sitting at 155 beats per minute. So that's tempo zone in the pace line. I left a gap for this guy to get in. You know, we're going. Our plan was to ride till we got tired of it and just pull off. So I'm not rolling through the line now. But the next time we get with him, we'll roll through the line and not take long pulls. Just go through, take a short pull, get off, or not pull at all. Just get off the front and drift back. So after this descent, Fish Creek becomes more of a challenge, because then it basically tilts upward. You're climbing for about, say, 10 kilometers. It's about 6 miles past that overpass. I think this is Peter in front of me here. So we're on a flat road pretty much, and we're doing 23 miles an hour into a 12 mile an hour headwind. 12 plus, because it's blustery, it's blowing around, you know. And Mo's at the front. So Mo's getting off the front there, drifting to the back. You see how he gets up to speed? Just kind of keep that gear rolling. Getting ready to get back in, because he had stopped pedaling. You don't want to get caught unawares when a fast-moving group is coming by after you've pulled off. You got to get your gear rolling. We're gonna stop. It's kind of a light change. This is where I end up missing I was trying to be extra cautious with that shoe cover, and I guess I just didn't get in there when I put force down and slipped. But you know, you don't panic, you just ride back. So it happened right here after we were going. You will hear me exclaim. So Paul's going, they're all going, because he was behind me. I'm having challenges, I guess. I don't know what happened. It just seemed off. Right there, I slipped. I said, whoa, it slipped off. Mo is behind me. So Mo's gonna come around as I begin to ride. Look at my power, 500 some watts. I'm ready to ride up to them. Then Mo sees that, he comes around. Look how easy he makes it look. So I told him thanks. I adjusted the camera. So now just that effort, look at my heart rate, 170. That's normal. It's kind of like a rev meter on your engine. I went very hard. My engine went up to red. Well, not red, I mean zone 4. And now it's gonna drift back down. So you don't worry about that. If you've trained like that, you're used to that. And that's not a problem. That's when you make a drastic effort. At first, everything feels hard, and then it settles. So you can see my heart rate still rising. Why? We're going uphill, into the wind. 37 kilometers an hour, almost 24 miles an hour into this stiff headwind upper climb. These boys are pouring it on. This is where Paul starts to feel it. I'm watching him, and Mo is watching him too. My heart rate starts to come down because now I'm sitting in the draft, then let off a little bit. That's why we ride consistently. When you're fit, that rev meter comes back down quickly, so you can go again. They call it anaerobic fitness, anaerobic capacity fitness. You got to do the proper workouts. So Doug comes off the front, and he gets on my wheel. The wind is, listen to that, it's just all over the place. You can see 300 something watts, and this road is what? Well, it says -1. It's not no -1. It's about 1%. Right here, Paul is really working. I can tell. I'm watching his form. See, my heart rate has dropped from 173 to 168, 160. It keeps dropping. And that's the range. So you just focus on working. You don't worry about what your heart's doing, but you have to be able to tolerate that zone. So if you've never spent that much time in there, then you start feeling crappy. Paul said he started feeling crappy, so he just told Mo to go on. Because you don't want to pedal squares. You're not teaching your body anything. So he's going to do more and more work to be able to tolerate this more and more. I could have stayed with them longer, but there was no point to it because he and I had our plan. They came along, and it was good to just stay with my wingman and find out what was going on. He kind of brought me up to speed right away. Like, this was how I was feeling, this was what was going on. Those are the kind of things we discuss. And I learned from that as well. I learned about other people and how they respond to certain things, and you can relate it to yourself or other people that I work with. So yeah, the wind is just pounding us. It is not easy. But look at my heart rate, 167, 168. This is where I expect to be. I think Paul was like 171, 170 something. That's where he said he was. So you see Mo's going up. I think Paul's going to wave him up. Right here, Mo can tell. There's a gap opening in front of Paul. Mo can tell. And Paul just put this out so Mo goes and closes the gap. That's how you know somebody's struggling. So right there, I put my arm on his shoulder, and then I wave Doug up.
The wind's no joke.
Then Doug said the wind's no joke as he goes around. And then the light changes, so he rides up with them. And I'll wait for Paul here. So if this happens to you, you're riding with a group, you start feeling crappy, let them go. You don't want to ride
All right, you legends, the wind
cross-eyed.
has been pounding us for hours. It's a little
This is
over 3 hours.
3 hours later.
3.5 almost. And it's gotten colder throughout the ride. We expected it, but we didn't expect the wind to be this stiff. So going home, we should have a nice tailwind, but right now we're gonna cross the lake and wanted to get some clips on the lake.
It feels like 7 or 6 Celsius, even though it says 10 Celsius. It feels colder. And we're near Lake Conroe. We're gonna be crossing the widest expanse of the lake, and it is blowing from the right because we're headed west right now. The wind is blowing from the right intensely. We don't have much of a tailwind. It's a crosswind. These are the conditions where if you're in some kind of competitive race, you gotta be alert because you can get dropped if you miss the echelon. So we're gonna run an echelon. Paul's gonna be on my left side, and I'm gonna do my best to stay to the right. There is a lot of debris when you cross the bridge, so I'm gonna keep all the debris to my right so that Paul doesn't have to encounter that. We had already discussed that we're gonna film here. You see me pull that thing down because the wind is blowing in the pits of the gilet. It's that stiff. This is where the wind was so stiff that it was actually burning my nostrils. Periodically, I would tilt my head, and then I leaned into the wind with my shoulder because it felt like it was pushing the bike into traffic. This is not the day to be cute on the bars. We were grabbing the bars. as soon as we hit the water, I'm telling him, look at the choppiness on the water. You see, as soon as we hit the water, you see the intensity. Look at my gilet, and that thing fits me tight. The wind's finding a way in there. It is blowing.
Yeah, I know.
So I said, this sucker's blowing. He's like, I know. I'm trying to get low, but maintain good form and hold those bars. I'm leaning to the right, and I'm trying to keep my face to the left because the wind is literally burning my right nostril. It felt very uncomfortable. It's like somebody blowing high pressure air in your nose. So you see why it pays to have a good position on the bike? Look at me, I'm in gusty winds crossing this water here. If I were sitting upright, I would be tossed around all over the place. But the proper cycling position is just inherently very aerodynamic. You have enough of an angle to where you're not a sail in the wind. Look at the water, very choppy. That's the debris to the right I was talking about. So my goal here is to keep my riding partner on my left. And so wherever I see the debris, you'll see me drift a little. You see, I'm keeping the debris to the right so he doesn't have to be concerned about it. Don't ride your partners into debris. So once the shoulder clears up in a little bit, I will pick up the pace. But right now I'm skirting, see all the debris? I'm making sure I keep them to the right. There's so much crap on there, pieces of metal and ropes, and right there, that's a piece of metal. I lowered myself just a little bit. And Paul got closer. The wind's picking up. We're about midway through here. So you got to get your kit to fit you well. If that gilet was not a good fit, it would be like a sail right now, because this thing felt like compressed air. I think this is where I begin to lift the pace a bit because it got cleaner. And I just stayed in the same gear. I just lifted my cadence. So in these kind of conditions, if you're going to change places with another rider, it's best to take shorter pulls and then you pull off the front. I would prefer that to a constantly rotating pace line because it's so blustery that it's just more to keep up with. Even if it's 30 seconds, the person's going to sit up there, let them take a pull and slide off. Then they're constantly having people coming around when it's tricky like that, because we're getting periodic bursts of wind. So having the proper gear is critical. It's not based on what you spend on them. It's based on the properties of what they're made for, meaning the right temperatures. Because if you wear something that's too light for the conditions you're in, you will be uncomfortable. So even if you paid a lot for it, it wouldn't be doing its job. You have to do your research and get the pieces for the zones you're going to be riding in. That's important. You got to research the garments, functions, and the technical fabrics that are in them and know what the intended purpose of each garment you get for your outdoor activities. This piece of tar. So we got off the lake, and then the road will kick up a little bit. So when you're riding in heavy winds, don't be cute. Keep your hands on the bars. I've got my fingers wrapped around the Ergo Power brake/shifters and part of them on the bars. I'm holding that thing tightly and I'm leaning to the right. Just keep my body kind of leaning to the right. Made a big difference because I knew Paul was on my left. So at this point, we're on Honea-Egypt Community Road, one of our favorite roads. Has a lot of patina. We're headed south.
Yeah,
we got a bit of a tailwind right here on this stretch, but as the road starts to curve, we lose it on and off. So it's like, generally we're going downwind, but still it's swirling around. So we never got a perfect situation where we had a pocket with tailwind for kilometers on end. Just a few sections. You can hear it. I had just removed the camera, so I left my vest up above my gilet, above the pockets on the jersey. In a little while, I'll pull them down. Paul comes to take his turn at the front. This is over 5 hours into the ride. It says 5:15 on the screen, but it's more like 5:50 because we start with like 35, 40 minutes before we get out and turn on the camera, but you know, it's close. I stay a little to his left because the wind is coming from the right, and then behind us also. But it's out here, it's swirling around. So once I'm in the back, I just put it in a gear where I'm not thinking about it because I'm not really riding. He's kind of pulling me along. Now I come back to the front, and that's when I start to ride, so my cadence becomes a factor. And on this road, you really want to put your head down. It's fun to ride, but it's not for chatting and messing around. It's time to get to the business of riding. We don't have a perfect tailwind, but it's not as vicious as it were when we're crossing the lake. So I settled into a rhythm here. I'm driving probably a 53-17 or something like that. Yeah, 53-17, I think. Just kind of keeping the gear rolling. We're doing almost 24, 25 miles an hour right here on this stretch. And because of the conditions, I'm just in zone 2. Normally it would be like zone 4, you know, 3 to 4. But we got a bit of a tailwind. The wind's coming from behind and to our right. So as the road angles towards the right, you can see my speed go down because the wind kicked in. All I'm focusing on is keeping my effort consistent here. So about 36 kilometers an hour, 35, 36 is about 23 miles an hour. And that's what we've been rolling at. Yeah, which doesn't mean anything. I mean, we're in zone 2 because of the conditions. So it's like, it's more of the effort. It's nice when you're working to be moving fast, but the work is what matters. The zone you're in is what matters. Paul drifts back so he can see his line through here because I'm avoiding the graded surface. Another reason we like this road is you can kind of finish it off depending on what you got left when you get up there. I downshift at this point because the wind is picking up. We have less shelter here for some reason. And then the road, the grade is starting to angle up. By the time it hits the display that you're on a grade, you've already been on the grade because it's registering what you've already experienced. I keep it in a big chain ring because we have very little gusts coming from the front. It's mostly from the right. I did not realize we're over 400 watts here. I was just turning the same gear. I'm in a 5323. It's a 3917, 62-inch gear. The road lessened. You can see that the power is going down. I did not turn off the power. The grade went down. When we went through those high percentage sections, the watts were up. This entire time, my goal was to keep my cadence up. We've been fighting the winds all day. I didn't want to feel like I was bogged down. So it's about 1 to 3% in this part of the zone here where we're riding to 2978. So I'm in at 53. 23 or 19. It's a 62 to 65 inch gear I'm riding. Trying to keep the tempo steady. It levels off here a little bit. But in the distance, it kicks up where you see there's a street on the right there, probably about 500 meters ahead. It kicks up there, so you don't want to be bogged down. You want to be on top of the gear you're riding. So if we were pushing here, I probably would have gone a little harder, but since we're keeping it steady, I stayed in the same gear and just spun it over that little bump there. I stay a little to the right so Paul can sit on my left and we can just use half of the lane. That's why you see me very close to the white line. You should be able to track your bike in a straight line when you're riding. Yeah, that guy couldn't wait to pass, and he found out he needed to move over, and he encroached upon the other road user. That's why the guy blew his horn. All he had to do was wait. You can see there's a double yellow line because you can't see around. They still pass. That's actually illegal. You are not supposed to pass in these sections of roads that are double yellow. But we keep our eye out for stuff like that. If they're starting to come around and the other guy is not backing off, if you have to leave the road, leave the road. You need to protect yourself at all costs. So the road went down. I just revved the gear. Now it kicks back up around here. It gets a little bumpy, so you want to be in a gear that would allow you to get through there without laboring. Try to keep your rhythm as close to normal as possible for you. So as we increase the intensity in the coming weeks into the festive 500 and into the new year, it should be interesting to see how we adapt to doing different things on these rides. So I don't know what you did on Saturday, but this is part of what we did on Saturday. Remember, get your K's in, keep those doctors fired, and be safe out there.